Hello everyone, my name is David Cutler,
And I'm Levi Pierpont.
and today we're going to be discussing airspace. So Class A airspace is your higher altitude airspace dealing with your jets and your faster aircraft. The dimensions for this airspace are flight level 180 to flight level 600. So the requirements to enter the Class A airspace are that you must have an instrument rating and an IFR clearance. You also must be established in a two-way radio communication with air traffic control. The aircraft must also have a Mode C transponder with an operable ADS-B out equipped, and DME is also required above flight level 240. For most VFR aircraft, you're typically not going to be dealing with this airspace. Class B airspace is a little bit more complex in terms of how to enter and the dimensions of the airspace in particular. So for Class B airspace, dimensions are pretty much custom to the specific airport that you're dealing with, but normally they extend up to 10,000 feet. And these are airports such as Chicago O'Hare, JFK, LAX, all your big international, typically busy airports. So the requirements to enter this airspace are a little bit different in compared to your Class C and your Class D airspace. For example, the weather, in order to fly in a Class Bravo airspace, the weather has to be 3 statute miles and clear of clouds if you're in a VFR scenario. Class Bravo also requires an ATC clearance that you must receive in order to enter the airspace. And it also requires that you have your private pilot's license or you are certified as a student pilot by an instructor in order to fly through the airspace. Class B also, you have to have a two-way radio communications established with the air traffic controller. And then it also entails a Mode C veil, which typically extends outside the Bravo airspace, that you have to contact air traffic control prior to entering. This is also your most congested and busiest airspace in the United States. So you're dealing with a lot of traffic, and it's often some of the most hectic airspace in the U.S. Here's a primary example of someone getting a clearance in order to enter the Class Bravo airspace.
125.2, good day.
25.2, good day, 916 Delta Foxtrot.
Southwest 695, roger. Descend and maintain 6,000.
6,000, Southwest 695.
Approach Skylane 916 Delta Foxtrot, descending out of 4,500. We got Golf for Addison.
416 Delta Foxtrot. Maintain 4,500. Clear in the Bravo airspace. Proceed direct Dallas, executive direct Addison.
Okay, 4,500, clear Class B, direct executive, then direct Addison, 916 Delta Foxtrot.
Number 651, Mike Kilo.
Okay,
Traffic.
stop by.
Because of how hectic this airspace is, typically controllers are stressed. So in order to salute the controllers at home, we opted to pour one out for the boys.
Cheers. So now moving into Class C airspace, the dimensions for it, the inner circle goes from the ground to 4,000 feet and has a radius of 5 nautical miles. And then the outer circle goes from 1,200 feet to 4,000 feet and a radius of 10 nautical miles. The requirements for Class C airspace, you have to establish a two-way radio communications with a Mode C transponder. And for the weather, you have to have a visibility of 3 statute miles with cloud requirements of 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontal. There's also a 20 nautical mile participatory approach area outside of Class Charlie airspace. Class C airspace isn't as busy as Class B airspace, but we're still going to pour one out for the... Cheers. For Class C.
Class C. This is getting worse.
What do you mean? The taste?
Yeah.
It was good at first, but it tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and now it just...
Doesn't taste like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
No, it doesn't. Now moving on to Class D airspace. The dimensions are generally from the surface to about 2,500 feet above the airport elevation and a radius of 4.4 nautical miles. And the requirements for Class D airspace, It's basically, unless you're otherwise authorized, each aircraft must establish two-way radio communications with the ATC facility providing air traffic services. A Mode C transponder isn't required, but it is recommended in Class D. And the weather is the same as Class C. So 3 statute miles visibility with cloud requirements, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontal. Pilots operating in Class D airspace are speed restricted to 200 knots below 4,000 feet within 4 miles of the primary airport. Class D isn't as busy as Class C airspace, but they still have to deal with student pilots, so we're still going to pour one out for the boys. Cheers.
So Class E airspace is typically where things get a little bit different in comparison to your Bravo, Charlie, or Delta airspace. Typically the Class E dimensions begin essentially where the Class Golf airspace ends, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The airspace itself can extend down to about 700 feet AGL, or it can go down all the way to the surface. There's a couple reasons for that. Mainly it has to do when dealing with approaches at certain airports. In terms of dealing with weather in the Class Echo airspace, this is where it gets a little bit different in comparison to the other ones. Below 10,000 feet MSL, entering a Class E airspace, weather requirements are the same as the regular airspace. So 3 statute miles visibility, your cloud requirements are 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontal. Once you get above 10,000 feet MSO, you're dealing with different requirements. In this case, we're dealing with 5 statute miles visibility, cloud requirements of 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, and 1 statute mile horizontally. When dealing with speed in the Class E airspace, aircraft are limited to 250 knots or less when below 10,000 feet, and are limited to Mach 1.0 or lower when above 10,000 feet.
Now into Class G airspace. The dimensions for it goes from the ground up to the base of Class E airspace, which can extend as high as 14,500 feet, or in specific areas about 700 feet. It depends on which area you're in. The requirements for Class G, it's a non-controlled airspace. Neither VFR or IFR need an ATC clearance to fly in this airspace. And the weather for it is 1 statute mile above 1,200 feet AGL and 3 statute miles at night. So basically just all airspace below 14,500 feet that isn't controlled is Class G airspace. Thank you guys for watching. This last one goes out to Poppy Ball. And remember, ladies and gents, drink responsibly.